It's time for the Game Sports Podcast. It's your host, David McCaig Jr. The game is powered by 91 Network YouTube channel. Head on over to it. Just give it a search wherever you are tuning into. And also, we are featured on Spaces as to Village Media and Sue today. As I mentioned, David McCaig here with the game. I am joined right off the hop, getting into our strike zone portion of the show by the one, the only, the legend, the rookie of the year. If you know, you know. Connor Henderson, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. We have some great baseball news to get to today, and we're going to do it short and sweet. I love it. Let's get right to it.
Love it. The new format's starting to percolate a little bit as September rolls around, where we're going to have a full kind of new format as we get used to everything. But Hendo, look, you and I talked a little off air about local baseball, and I got to give a quick shout out to that. Sault Ste. Marie local baseball. Look, if you have a men's league where you're at, hopefully it's a competitive league and it's fun. Fast pitch, I'm talking about, not the slow pitch. Our league has grown to 6 teams this year, and for fast pitch in Sault Ste. Marie, that's very good. 3 competitive teams that have generational type Black Sox players, which are rep players, whatever way you want to look at it. And you got 3 teams that are mixed. And the Panda Dynasty, I don't know if the dynasty is going to be continuing after some of these teams that have went on. But optimism, and the season has started, so we hope if you're playing baseball, you're having a good time. Hendo, I wish you were on the field, but I will say one brag. We got 1 hit last game, our team, and it was me. That went 1 for 2, and who was it against?
Our dear friend Jordan Trudeau.
Yeah, nice hit off Trudes. It was a nice hit. Thank you, Trudes, for the nice pitch. I don't know if you meant to do that or not, but it was a nice pitch. Now, enough about the Pandas. We'll save that for another time when we have time. Hendo, I'm going to pass it on to you about something that we waited to talk about till this very week. Pete Rose, Shoeless Jackson, all you, man.
Yeah, Dave. So Rob Manfred, commissioner of MLB, recently announced that upon death, players will be re-eligible if they were permanently banned from consideration for the Hall of Fame. Now, you've been on record on this show numerous times over years and years saying that Pete Rose should already be allowed in, and it would be a disgrace for them to only let him in after his death. As we know, he recently died, and sure enough, I don't even think it's been a year. They say that he's now eligible. It is insane. Shoeless Joe as well up for consideration. But Dave, first your thoughts on Pete Rose, and then I've got a little bit on Shoeless Joe.
I'm going to give you Shoeless Joe a lot. I'm only going to focus on Pete Rose. Look, the statistics are there, and there's been a lot of worse in the world of baseball, in the world of sports, when it comes to violations in part of your game or extracurricular activities, whatever way you want to look at it, okay, in the way of the game. And they've punished players rightfully in terms of steroid abuse and so on. But at the same time, I even have some question about that, because look at the era, and it wasn't enforced. If something wasn't to enforce, it's not to the fault of the player. But we're not getting into Barry Bonds and so on. Pete Rose should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago when he was alive, to be able to enjoy that piece of his legacy, because no one's ever touching that hit record. No one is ever going to touch what he did. No one's going to be as effective as a hitter as he was. He deserved to be there, and because of his scandals off the field that were nothing, that I feel, not that they were nothing, okay, but I believe they were forgivable actions is maybe the appropriate word. Correct me if I'm wrong, Connor. I think those are the appropriate terms. He deserved to be in the Hall of Fame and be able to enjoy it while he was alive, and he didn't have that. And I, like you said it on record, that it would be awful to put him in this quick after he died. If it was 5 years or something, okay, maybe I could swallow that. But not even a year? Go back on TikTok. Look, you got your phone. Go to the Game Sports Podcast. Scroll down. It's there. I looked at it today. It says Pete Rose right on the thing. If you go to the profile, it is there. And let us know what you feel about that. But Pete Rose should have been there a long time ago. And, of course, he passes. And now commissioner decides to step in and say this comment. Now, I like that he's going to be in there more than likely. Great, but I wish he would have been able to enjoy it while he was alive.
Especially in a day and age where sports gambling is so prevalent. We've got guys like Jameson Williams getting burned in the NFL, but, you know, some can say rightfully so.
Every podcast talks about sports betting. I'm probably the only one that doesn't have sports betting on here.
It's an entertainment business, and gambling for many people makes it more entertaining. Let's get with the times here, people. Yes. Pete Rose is going to get in. He's the all-time hit leader in the history of the MLB, for those who need to know. Shoeless Joe Jackson, quickly before we move on, historically was on the Black Sox scandal 1918 White Sox team. For those who don't know, there was this White Sox team in the World Series who threw the World Series. There was a conspiracy. I won't get into all the details, but essentially they threw the World Series, and I think about 8 players got banned from the MLB for life, one of which, Shoeless Joe Jackson, who many say wasn't intricately involved in the scandal itself. And he historically, these guys had comical numbers. He had a career batting average of 356 at the time he was banned at age 32. In the World Series, I think he batted about 375. And there is some discrepancy between the clean games and the games they threw. But suffice to say, there's a strong argument out there that he was not intricately involved in them throwing the game. Thus, the White Sox were named the Black Sox, or dubbed the Black Sox. And that's why in Sault Ste. Marie, the logo for our rep team is the White Sox logo, but they're called the Black Sox. It's a cheeky play on this scandal. And Shoeless Joe being named Shoeless Joe because of having blisters on his cleats back then, and somebody saw him go out into the field without shoes on and said, "Hey, you son of a gun, Shoeless." Like, it was the 19th. People talked like that, I guess, apparently. But cool story. He's got a chance to get in there, and if you've ever seen the Kevin Costner film Field of Dreams, they get into a little bit of history about Shoeless Joe, or the legend around Shoeless Joe. He's got a chance to make it into the Hall of Fame now.
Yeah, and I both deserve, but Pete Rose should have been there while he was alive. That makes my blood boil. And I can't. But good on him for getting in, but I wish he would have been able to enjoy it. What was his? He had. I don't have his statement up or anything like that, but he sent a letter in. I believe it was like a year before he died, or it was like very much prior before he died. He had a statement, or he had a letter or something that he had sent out. And I think, Connor, I don't know if it was you that was telling me about that when we talked about it at that episode, but he had something set up where he was saying that he wished, maybe it was before he died. I don't know. It could be, it's around that realm, a year before he died, close to when he died, or right before he died. He wanted to be forgiven for what he did, but also have the chance to be in the Hall of Fame. So I think that's something worthwhile to Google. I'm not trying to create rumors, but too bad he passed away with the sadness of not having that opportunity. It ate him away until he passed away. Just saying, not making anyone feel guilty, but it's true. A couple points I want to get to. I know you were at Tarik Skubal's game and you watched that complete game. The Tigers looking real good. I'm going to give you that. Then I got two quick topics before we wrap up Strike Zone. 10 minutes comes and goes, my friend.
Sure. We are in an era where pitchers do not go full games, especially in the regular season when it doesn't matter. You could make the argument that it also doesn't happen in the playoffs because, everybody's got these super relievers now that they'll roll in after one time through the batting order. Tarik Skubal, 9 innings, 13 Ks, a masterclass, less than 100 pitches. It's very rare nowadays. And of course, he won the Cy Young last year, but he's looking even better this year. It's very rare nowadays for pitchers to not only be given the leash to go deep in a game, but also be able to rack up that many strikeouts while keeping their pitch count that low. Usually, if you keep your pitch count down, it's because people are getting out early in counts by, soft ground balls, weak pop flies. But for him to be able to pound the strike zone to the point where he's getting 13 strikeouts in a game and still keep his pitch count under 100, the place was electric. Comerica Park was rocking on a Sunday afternoon, and it was so cool, Dave. You would have loved to see it. Tarik Skubal was an absolute force, and when he ran out onto the mound, the energy in the building, the crowd started cheering, and he ended the game with a 103 mile per hour fastball, striking out the final batter, which broke the record previously held by Justin Verlander for hardest strikeout or hardest fastball thrown by a starting pitcher in the 9th inning of a ball game. So
I like that. Love stats.
With legendary company. Suffice to say, the fact that he had that much juice in the tank that late in the game not only speaks to his stuff, but his endurance, and he's in Hall of Fame company when you're talking about guys like Justin Verlander and Detroit legends as well.
You know what? Tigers looking real good. Obviously, there's some teams that aren't looking as good out of the gate. The Red Sox being one. The Jays are very inconsistent. The AL East there is looking a little bit inconsistent. The Yankees having some success despite amid the injuries that they have. So there's a lot of openness in the league this year, but there's some teams that are looking real strong, and the Tigers are certainly a part of that. One point that I want to mention before I get into our last topic, Ramon Anthony. I got a message for the Red Sox. Call up this guy. I know it's a hot topic, okay? Like, there's a lot of different leagues now with management being involved, and I dove into this topic a little bit. The Red Sox, look, you're playing like garbage. You need a pickup, and there's a young guy in your system looking absolutely like a stud right now. Call up that guy, get some motivation. He has confidence out the wazoo right now. He's the guy you got to call up, and he's looking real good. looking real good. I got to say that there's a lot of impatient Red Sox fans, and they're a lot like, I'm going to say it, Toronto Maple Leaf fans, where they don't like not being successful. Okay, so get Ramon Anthony up. Last topic that I'm going to bring up, Paul Skeens, Connor. Okay, I want to know if you think Paul Skeens, I know they say he's not going to get traded. General manager, and I'm reading this quote from Ben Sherrington, has firmly stated that he is going to be the reigning NL Rookie of the Year, may I add you, is not available for trade. Duh, you hope so. But do you think he's telling the truth? Do you think he'll be the one? Do you think Paul Skeens will be traded within the next calendar year?
Seen these rumors, my answer is no. This GM does not have the guts, and nor should he, to let go Paul Skeens. It's the one bright spot that abysmal franchise has going for them. All due respect to their pitching staff as a whole, they've been pretty decent this year. But Paul Skeens is their shining star, and he just got up to the MLB last year. Ride it out, build around him. You're never going to get a player better than him in their lineup, and it would be really hard-pressed to find a team who could afford a talent like that, who's so young, cost-controlled, and has got the juice.
100% won't be traded, and with the publicity you can get with him being as good as he is, but also, dare I say, his other half has some pretty darn good followers, okay, that helps the Pirate fan base, okay, help expose that organization, give it a little bit of credit. When Livy Dunn, I said her name on the show, I can't believe I said her name, but wearing the Pirates hats at games, TikToking or whatever she's doing.
Their minor league teams naming games after the Duns, the Livy Duns. They're changing their jerseys for her, Dave.
Look, it's bananas. It's bananas. You got to keep a franchise, and I bananas reference. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But that is someone that you keep on your team, and especially being a stud pitcher. What? Look, if not, I'm sure there's some teams taking them, and why not the Tigers, Connor? Why don't the Tigers? Why not? I would. I'm sorry, I would. I imagine Skeens. But just go see the Jays and Tigers. It'd be the Jays, Tigers, Livy Dunn be in the crowd. You know what I'm saying? Then Detroit, Michigan's just going wild. Look. It's a match made in heaven for the Tigers. They looking real good, but I'm not surprised. Connor, that's all the time we have for Strike Zone tonight. I want to say thank you to you, my friend. As always, it's always a pleasure. We didn't get into standings and teams too much. We had some story time, but this week, a little bit more short and sweet. Next week or the week after, or whatever week we have you back on, we'll get into a little bit more, and we'll have a bit more time when it comes to Strike Zone. So I want to say thank you to you, Connor, for always taking the time, my friend. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Go Pandas. Now, as we wait to get in here, Connor Henderson, thank you again. The Game Sports Podcast. Brendan McCarthy is joining us and is all set. Look at the timing. Look, it's like we've been doing this. It's like we've been doing this for years. And listen, we have just started doing this. Okay, everybody, this is a whole new that goes off of, let me tell you, David time. If you know, you know. Okay,
Jesus.
So if we're coming on board on time with these transitions, you make my life a lot easier, but this is impressive. Okay. You don't see the tickers at the bottom yet, but that's coming. Okay. That's just pure laziness by yours truly here, to be transparent with you. We got the brand on the top right here. I can't see. There it is. We got the brand on the top right there that you can enjoy with our logo. But Brandon, my friend, how you doing?
That was seamless timing, Dave, but trying to nail down a time today via text was like trying to get a job interview with you or something.
And
Holy
I saw a call,
smokes.
and when you were calling, I was like, I'm mid-sentence venting about Pete Rose. I couldn't
Well, makes sense. That makes sense.
So, but nonetheless, this is now, ladies and gentlemen, and to all of those enjoying the game here today, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on all the platforms. We're transitioning from Strike Zone to Top Shelf. They're in Top Shelf today. We will be focusing on the professional level when it comes to the Memorial Cup and to Major Junior, such as Chuck-a-Puck. Sorry, we're going to be having that next week, just so you guys are all aware. So this week we're sticking with Top Shelf, and Brendan and I are going to get into that right away. Parr couldn't join us. He has something going on. He's got a supper. He's got a viewing. He's got to run.
He's got it all.
He's got to run laps. He's getting an interview for the Toronto Maple Leafs executive vice president position. I don't know. He's got lots going on, that lad. So he sends his wishes to everybody. But Brandon and I, you and I got this, and we got some good topics to get into in this next about 15-ish minutes or so. I wanted to start, if it's okay with you, because I don't want to talk about the conference finals yet. I don't want to get into that. We can save that stuff for the end because it breaks my heart to talk about certain things. And obviously, out of the Western Conference Finals, there was some big news today on the Oilers side. They're missing a former Leaf for the rest of the season. But I wanted to lay a fact onto you, and I had to type this out. Okay, I wanted to make sure I stayed on point. I typed this out all by myself, everybody. I want you to know this, okay? So I'm going to talk about the Maple Leafs about something. Yeah, we're going to talk about the Leafs here, and here's why, and it spins off of credit to Spin Chicklets and credit onto all the platforms that people are talking about right now, okay? The Leafs lost Game 7 to Florida. It was basically not even a hockey game. It was like watching an absolute joke on the ice, and as everybody knows. And the first thing that everyone does, core 4, I'm saying core 5, but you point at the core 4, core 5, whatever you want to look at it. But you know what? I will state, before I get into this point, shake up and change is needed. Okay. Something has happened already since we last talked, and that's Brendan Shanahan. Brendan Shanahan is no longer there in Toronto. Okay. And since he's been in Toronto, look, they've made the playoffs. Have progressed. They've ascended. They haven't went down. They've went up. Yeah, they haven't won a cup or basically many playoff games, but nonetheless, this is still Shanahan's tenure with the Leafs is done. So there's been the first shakeup that everyone knew would likely happen. Do I think Marner will sign or not sign? Look, I've left that opinion. Listen to a previous episode, but I will say again, I think he is going to sign elsewhere. But let me lay in some stats. 19, the Toronto Maple Leafs lost the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins made the Stanley Cup Finals. In 2021, they lost the Montreal Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens made the Stanley Cup Finals. In 2022, they lost the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay Lightning made the Stanley Cup Finals. In 2023, they lost the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers made the Stanley Cup Finals. 2024, nothing. 2025 is the question mark. But let's say it, date of recording here, May 28th, Florida and Edmonton is probably going to be the matchup. Likely. Very much likely. And what does that mean if Florida makes the Cup Finals? Well, as of now, 4 out of the last 6 years, not including this year, it would be 5 out of 7 years where teams have made the Stanley Cup Final, with only one time that a team's won the Stanley Cup. But again, that's not including this year. 4 to 6 years that a team that Toronto has played in that first or now second round has made the Stanley Cup Final. Now, everyone's going to say that look at the other teams that have also lost to Florida, lost to Tampa. Yeah, there were other teams that have lost, okay, but look at that Atlantic division. Did you not hear the teams that I put down on throughout your earwaves and throughout everything you're hearing on? Tampa, Montreal, Florida. Just to name those teams, of course. These are teams that have made the Stanley Cup Final, and right now the Panthers are having their way with Carolina, and this shows Toronto's players are not the problem. It's mindset. The players don't show up to the big game. It's pressure, I guess, if you want to point it that way, but I'm saying mindset. They don't have guts. They don't have dogs in the big times when it matters, and that insane, I'm going to say, management change, player additions, we're going to see that happen this offseason. But we sit here and say the core 5, let's call it, has not showed up in the big moment. But 4 to 6 teams have made the Stanley Cup Finals, with one of them winning. 5 out of 7 once this year happens. But here's what I'll say. That insane, Marner take a pay cut, Tavares take a pay cut, add a dog or two, run it back. Do they get it done?
No. I was like, when is this? Hold on a second. I was waiting, like, how is he going to pose a question to me, or how is he going to land this plane? And I was like, wait a minute. In the last 30 seconds of your just epic rant, I was like, he's going to be in the party of running it back with the core 4. No, he can't be. He is. And I need Parr here because he would absolutely annihilate you as well. Because don't get into that. Don't get into that mess, Dave. You gotta stay the course. You gotta commit to change. You don't want to step back and say, hey, run it. Like, they've already made a move. Okay. We're like, what, a week and a half, 2 weeks out from that abysmal loss to the Panthers in Game 7. You've already made the move at the top. You had to let go of Shanahan. Okay. He was just so committed to this core 4 and committed that they would actually get it done. It didn't happen. You got to accept it. You got to rip the Band-Aid off. You got to move on. What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? You got to let them go. Okay. If you look at Edmonton, right, there's 2 guys that control that team at the end of the day. It's number 97 and number 29. And they are playoff dogs. They get it done when it matters. For the Leafs, there's too many cooks in the kitchen. That's what I'll say. There's too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's a good reference.
Right? Tavares, look at, if you want to give this guy a discount,
$5 million? Would you give him 5? 2 years, 5 per? 5 per for 2 years.
I think it's got to be in. Personally, I think it's got to be in the 4.5 range. And if he doesn't bite, then see you later. Marner, he's going to get like 16 million from the Sharks. And you know what? So be it. Because there's 2 guys that are going to run that team. It's going to be Matthews and Nylander. And the rest, you sprinkle in a good supporting cast. You keep the primary defenders back there. You got Stolarz for another year. You got Berube taking on a bigger role. And you have Treliving taking on a bigger role. That's what Keith Pelly said in the end of year media availability. That I want Treliving and Craig Berube's role to expand, have more of a say in kind of the internal stuff that goes on. So we're already making moves, but this is so classic. And you're a very smart media professional, but this is you're talking like a very, very classic Leaf fan to be irate after another playoff failure, saying blow it up, and then 14 days later or whatever it is, it's like, well, hold on a second, maybe run it back. Yes, is it satisfying to know like, wow, Florida's that good because they're just absolutely kicking the Hurricanes' ass? But at this point, it could have been any team, and I think the Leafs would have revealed their true colors eventually, right? Any playoff team that is. Like they started to show it a bit against the Senators, and the Sens forced them to 6. So
I think I'm drinking the Biz Nasty juice here.
You are drinking that big glass of Biz Nasty juice. You cannot come back with the same team. You cannot come back with the same team. The only people who are going to show up are the suits who can afford it, and that upper bowl will be crickets because people are not going to show up to watch that team again. Honestly, Nylander, I said this when they were eliminated. The untouchables are Matthews, Nylander, Tanev, Stolarz, and Nyes. Everyone else, it's like you might be like Morgan Riley. Sorry, I know you're on a 7-year, whatever, $7 million per year deal. He could be on the trading block, right?
Yeah.
So those guys that I just mentioned, Stolarz, Tanev, Nyes, Nylander, Matthews, I think are the only untouchables. So you're going to offload a shit ton of cash with Marner walking and Tavares. I mean, probably taking a discount. You're still gonna save a bunch because Marner's making what 10-9 and Tavares is making over 11,
yeah, just over,
right? So you could get like a, even if you don't get a Sam Bennett, like you could get a Nick Ehlers or a Brock Besser, just someone with a little bit more, grit maybe in the bottom 6 as well, to bolster the depth scoring, because that was a big major concern in the playoffs, right?
Brutal statistics from the bottom 6. Brutal statistics.
It was brutal. But hey, this is one for the socials, Dave. This is one for the socials. Are you ready? And hopefully my frame will be better, because usually I'm like way maximized in your living room. It's like in the Proud Family, that one giant who just is like maximized. Anyway, here's something that I think will get a lot of clicks. Mitch Marner. Okay, 3 teams that he potentially signs that would absolutely just infuriate any Leaf fan, and 3 teams that they'd be like, okay, see ya. Enjoy your dough.
Florida Panthers, Vegas Golden Knights. I feel like that would infuriate Leaf fans just because it just would.
Okay.
And then the next one, Tampa Bay Lightning. I'll go with the 3 staying in the Atlantic. Teams, they'd be like, see you later. San Jose Sharks is 100% one of the teams. I would say that one team that they wouldn't care is Calgary. I feel like that would be okay if he went over to Calgary. Again, Western Conference. And if I'm again looking at the West, I'm going to say Utah. Those are the 3 teams that I would say that they wouldn't care about. 3 that they would, and 3 that they wouldn't. And I didn't include key team, Boston, because I don't think Boston would pitch that anyways, to be honest with you. But I think Florida would. You lose Bennett and Marchand and Ekblad. I'm just saying. They got some defense coming up.
Barkov, Kachuk, and Marner.
Just saying. I'm throwing that out there. But I think San Jose's got to be the front runner. They got to be that hidden guy team, because Marleau, I think, is involved. Look, conspiracy with Marleau maybe a little bit, but I think San Jose needs to be the front runner for Marner.
Davey, I got to say, I don't even think he's going to stay in the East. I think if you're Billy Zito and Paul Maurice, I think internally you're like, I don't actually want Mitch Marner because we have a bunch of dogs, even if we have the likes of Marchand and Bennett leaving, because every player top to bottom has bought into that system, right? So they could be saying like, we don't want Mitch Marner and we don't want to pay him that boatload of money. So I would be shocked if he actually goes to Florida, but that would definitely infuriate Leaf fans. That's number 2 for me. Number 3 is Tampa, and number 1 would be Boston. I think that would be the ultimate punch to the face. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
In the West, I would say, I'd have Vegas too. That would infuriate teams just because no state tax. It's like, okay, you just want to kind of do it the easy way, like a Kevin Durant with the Warriors, right?
All the time. Vegas.
But in the West, I would say, and I think this is probably the route he's going to take, it's going to be like San Jose, Chicago, or Utah. San Jose, it's like, hey, it's a good pitch. You can play with Macklin and you can play with Will Smith. Chicago, you got Connor Bedard. And then Utah, it's just like, okay, you know what? I can really, really escape and kind of get mine and not have to worry about pressure, right?
Yep.
Now,
he
can get paid. But that's why I'm saying if he goes to Vegas, he might sniff around and say, you know what? Yeah, at least like their window isn't closing. And I think ultimately Marner is in kind of that point of his career where it's like, do you want to win? But I want to go somewhere that's like, not as high strung, high media pressure where I can kind of coast and not be like recognized, but still be on a competitive team. Because if he goes to San Jose and Chicago, it's like, good luck, buddy. You're not going to win. But Vegas could be certainly an option for him, but that would infuriate Leaf fans just because it's just like, of course, no state tax, it's just yucking up in Vegas.
Yeah, no.
So
give me the would you rather question. First time on this show. Let's go with the would you rathers. Tavares, Marner for 11 combined. Not realistic. That's not realistic. But let me give you that. Combined or Bennett, Marchand for 15 combined.
I mean, at that, okay, but no, but that's. Yeah, but you're telling me that Mitch would make 6 and Tavares would make 5.
Okay, well,
like that's not
13.
That's not gonna happen. Like you can't.
I guess you can. I'm just saying hypothetically, would you still go after the dogs or would you run it back? That's my
Okay, you have to eliminate the hypothetical salary cap.
Okay, both. Okay, who would you rather between the two?
Like, sorry, you have to eliminate that cap at 11.
Eliminate the cap in general. Well, and this won't be a social, just so people know. I want to ask Brendan as would you rather just them two or them two? How's that? No cap, no nothing. You have Marner, Tavares, or Bennett, Marchand.
I would take Bennett and Marchand. I think that's pretty easy. I mean, I think why people are hesitant is that in the regular season, like they don't really do too much, but then people also get kind of like lifted and swept off their feet because it's like, oh, look what Marner and Tavares are doing, just like racking up points, accomplishing all these big feats of the regular season, but then they don't get it done when it truly matters. Whereas Marchand and Bennett, it's kind of just like, all right, just kind of like fly through the regular season and get ready and get geared up for the playoffs. So that's what you're paying for. That's what you're hoping materializes, right? I mean, truly, this set of players versus this set of players, it has to be Bennett and Marchand. Your cap question of 11 mil combined between Tavares and Marner and 15 for Bennett and Marchand. Of course I'm taking Tavares and Marner.
I just knew you would take Bennett and Marchand, so I was trying to make it harder. Oh,
yeah, oh man. Imagine the Leafs pitch that. Hey Mitch, we'll give you 6 mil per. I mean, Johnny I think would take 5. He knows that he's not worth anything above 5 anymore, right?
For term, if he wants term, he's gonna have to take a lot lower, right? But if he wants like a 2-year bang on contract, he might get his 5 or 6. But I
just think you have to be careful with how you want to go back, because I said this before too, Dave. You don't want to lowball him too much where you cause a rift. Like what did Breezewall offer Stamkos? Wasn't it like a lot of term, but it was like 3 years?
It was low salary.
It was 3 by 8, and Stamkos is like, wow, I'll take 4, and we got a deal. And they said no. Wasn't it something like that?
I think it was. Then he left for Nashville.
Then he left for Nashville.
But like, I wonder if you're like Hockey Illuminati said this, and here I am quoting Biz and Illuminati this show. 2 people getting shout outs today on this podcast. But he mentioned, why don't you just give Tavares like 5 years? Give him $4 or $3 million because guess what? He's going to end up on Robidas by the time he's 38 anyways, probably, right? Jokes aside. If I'm Trey Living, I'm like, here's your 2-year deal at 5 per 6. Like, I would talk to him and get that feeling first.
I think you have to be very, very careful because, and I think you always have to just use the Stamkos situation as an example, as a bad example where things can go south, because this was your captain. This is a guy who probably wants to, hang around after he hangs him up to like be part of, the off the ice, ongoings around the team. So you have to approach it like, if anything, it's like see a Mitch and then Tavares. Let's try and work together to make something that both sides are happy with. But also at this point, Tavares is like, I know I'm not worth what I'm making right now. So yes, I'll take that and go out and get guys to fill out this team that can compete for a cup. Marner, he's younger, and I think some team is truly just going to be like, hey, Mitch, we're offering you this, and of course, it's like it's he already has life-changing money. This is going to be basically like for generations upon generations.
Pittsburgh, Dubas, Islanders for the Tavares karma. Is that what we're going to see?
I'm gonna say like 70% he goes to the West.
Yeah.
30% chance he goes to the East. Like,
I agree.
I could just think, because someone in the West is like, the Sharks and the Blackhawks, I think especially, are going to be like, we will give you 14-5. Like, they'll just
Macklin or Bedard, who do you want, right?
Who do you want? Exactly. They will basically be like here and pitch him all the great things. I think San Jose, because he's good buddies with Patrick Marleau.
Yeah.
Right.
Stay there, family.
And he can stay there. Right, so it's gonna be a lot. I mean, he just had a kid with his wife, so it's gonna be a lot of thinking for them to do. But I'm pretty sure he's thinking like, God, if I go anywhere in the Atlantic, it's gonna be like playing in Toronto because I'll be in the spotlight. I think he just wants to get out of here.
Yeah, I agree. That topic went a little longer, but I like it. I knew I'd get a rise a little bit.
Well,
it was intended. There's stats are hard to ignore, but right now in the Eastern Conference Final, you got Florida up 3-1 on Carolina at the time that we're talking. That can change by the time this show's uploaded, so I don't want to go into too much there. But obviously Florida looking like they're running the show in this series, and it's not looking like Carolina has a chance, to be honest with you. Now that I've said that, I probably jinxed a little something and might go a little longer. But the Western Conference Final between Dallas and Edmonton, I'm actually a little bit surprised it's 3-1 Edmonton, and not because I'm doubting Edmonton, but Dallas seemed like such a dog-type team. I thought this was the team that Dallas could get over that hump. But Edmonton did face some bad news today. Zach Hyman is done. Former Leaf, the Zach Hyman, 54-goal man prior, not this year, obviously, but a guy who is a big presence on that power play and in that top six role, will be out for the remainder of the playoffs. Brendan, does this hurt? It's an obvious question, but does this hurt their chances if they do make it to against, say, a team called Florida, where they need those type of dogs? I said dogs a lot in this episode, in front of the net. What can Edmonton do to try to rebound and replace Hyman, or is that even a proper question?
Not even like hurts. This just absolutely demoralizes the team, like crushes the team. I mean, obviously, Draisaitl and McDavid get most of the headlines, but Zach Hyman, you could argue, is the heartbeat of that team. Like night in and night out, he brings it. He's physical. He's tough to play against. He sets up shop in the crease, and he plays a really, really, I don't want to say dirty game, but just a very like in there, like he's got a bunch of snarl and tenacity to him. And he since he came to the league, he was really the only guy that Mike Babcock would actually praise, and how important he was to the Maple Leafs. But it's really disappointing. I think this really hurts them, especially, I'm going to say when they get to the final, like they're going to do it. I think Dallas is running out of steam. I agree with you though. Like I didn't expect it to be 3-1. I thought Dallas would put up a little bit more of a fight, especially how game one went with their big comeback. You're kind of riding momentum.
Stuart Skinner's Patrick Waugh now, so
Stuart Skinner is just that guy. Just I don't understand. He's so inconsistent, but he seems to be cooking right now. So I think it's safe to say Oilers are in. And if they get a Panthers team, man, like Hyman is one of those guys who can push back against the Kachucks and the Bennetts, and who else? Rodriguez, like just those Marchand, of course, just those guys that are in the crease and pushing and shoving. So I think this really hurts their chances of actually winning a cup. Like it's that drastic.
Yeah. Very fair take.
So It's extremely disappointing. It looks like Kane's going to miss some time. Connor Brown is I don't think going to play in Game 5. So is it Jeff Skinner time? Perhaps he's only played one game, and that was Game 1 against the Kings, and he registered 1 assist. They signed him as a free agent. They gave him a 1 or 2 year deal worth like 1 or 2 mils. This is a guy who hasn't ever seen playoff hockey up until Game 1 of this year. So perhaps you get him in as the 12th forward and see if he can inject a bit of energy, because they're going to need him in the final.
They are going to need him 150%. But now, next time we talk, we probably will know the Stanley Cup final matchup, and we already kind of have a good idea of what that is. But Brendan, I want to spend the last few moments on this to continue something with the Florida Panthers, and it's getting to our all-time team that we're going to have that we started to do on this show. Obviously, we've done Washington prior. It felt like it made sense to put ourselves through a little bit of punishment if you're a Leaf fan, to talk more about the Florida Panthers, but to also talk about Florida because they're still going and they're looking pretty darn good. And I didn't feel like doing the Oilers this time around because it's too obvious to pick an Oilers all-time team, in my honest opinion. I'm just being honest with you. I think it's one of the easiest ones that you can just say and you can name all the players right off the hop. But Brendan, you and I, we're going to do the all-time team for the Florida Panthers. Brendan, we'll go to you first. Florida Panthers all-time team. Go.
All right. So starting with the bench boss, I'll go with Paul Maurice. On the back end, I'll go Jay Bouwmeester and Aaron Ekblad. And then for my forwards, I'll go Matthew Tkachuk, Sasha Barkov, and Pavel Bure.
Pavel Bure from the top ropes. And who's your tender?
Bobby Lou.
It's almost like, who else would you pick? I got Paul Maurice as the coach. Paul Maurice is a friend of the show. He's been a guest on the show, obviously with being a friend, but also he is from Sault Ste. Marie. He's won a cup. Look, you got to go Paul Maurice, okay? So that's the coach. Defense, I got Ed Jovanovski, and I got Jay Bouwmeester, okay? Aaron Ekblad was close. Hard not to choose for Jay Bouwmeester, but Jay put a lot of time in there for the Florida Panthers. From the Florida forward perspective, I got Jonathan Huberdeau. He was elite. He's second on the team in franchise points, even still now being on Calgary. Alexander Barkov is the second pick for me, and I don't mean that in order, but the second forward is Alexander Barkov. He has the most points in franchise history and a cup as a captain. I don't need any more points to that. The third forward I'm going with, legendary, okay? This was the face. When I think of Florida back in the day of forwards, I think of Olli Jokinen, okay? That's where I am. The Olli Jokinen was the other forward for me. And in net, if you're thinking anyone else outside of Roberto Luongo, I'd be curious to know. And if it's a name that I'm thinking of that I won't say on the show because just because I don't want to spoil it, comment below if you think there's another goaltender. Because no, not Sergei Bobrovsky. I am going with Roberto Luongo. It's still the best Florida Panther goalie of all time.
I love it.
That's a list. That's a list from yours truly and the Carts. Yes, I could have almost went a whole episode without saying it, but I had to. All right, man. It's been fun. This has been the Game Sports Podcast in general. Before I get to the usual sign-off portion, Brennan, I want to say thank you to you, my friend, for taking the time. And no thanks to Parr for not joining us tonight.
Yeah, boo.
Boo. You would have loved that rant I had, though. Poor guy is going to have to comment on this, or he's going to have to give me crap on the next edition.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week, my friend, and I look forward to talking more Top Shelf next week.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
This has been the Game Sports Podcast. Of course, thank you again to Brendan. Thank you to Connor Henderson. We had Strike Zone, and we had a Top Shelf segment here on the game here tonight. The Game Sports Podcast is powered by 91 Network. That's the 91N YouTube channel. Head on over, hit like, follow, subscribe on all the platforms, which also includes TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, which is at the Game Sports Podcast. And you can also check us out on Spaces. That's Sioux Village Media and Sioux Today. Make sure you're following and keeping tabs on what we do and also interacting. We obviously do these shows because we love it, but we also want to make sure you're interacting. We enjoy having the chirps or the good feedback. But either way, if you're tuning in, you should be following along going forward. Until next week, I'm here to remind you, keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdown, train your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.